All right, we are live. The clock is ticking. I can see it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the session. Hope you had a good day. Yeah, it's 7 o'clock and time for the Digital Fashion Innovator Series here on LinkedIn Live. My name is Marie Bastian, and I'm the CEO and founder of World of Mesh, and I'm your host for today's session. And this new era of digital fashion is just bringing together all these amazing talents from all around the globe. And this is my main aim, to get you guys on this platform and to share your story, to inspire new creators coming in, but also the fashion industry at large, and get everyone on board with this new era that's rolling on. So all our guests are always speaking on behalf of themselves, not for the companies they work at. And if you have any questions, feel free to add them in the comments so we can bring you into the conversation and get any questions answered on your mind. Perfect. All right. So time to welcome our guest for today, Balint Barlai, founder of Colormass. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Very nice. Yeah, Balint and I, we connected in Berlin not too long ago, right? It was just a few months ago. I'm not even sure anymore. And we had this really great catch up and got to know each other. And he showed me his space and what he's been working on. And I'm really excited to really dive deep into the topic material scanning with him today. Really expert in this field. So let's just get you introduced and welcome you on board. So first of all, just for your background, just so everyone knows, so Balint, you have this background in mathematics, and you're one of the founders of Colormass, based in Berlin, and you have it's a deep tech company focusing on advanced 3D technologies, and you're also trusted in working with leading brands, and Colormass simplifies 3D data management and digitization. And the one part that we're really interested about today is the fabric and material scanning, which you've been working on the last years. Great.
Yeah.
So maybe we can just start with you, and you can share how you got into the digital product creation field, and where you started and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, thank you very much for that nice introduction. And just to give a little bit of intro about me and about the company. We started Colormass in 2016 with another founder, Tash Roti. We owned the company 50% actually. And prior to Colormass, maybe just a little background story. We worked on a 3D face reconstruction technology. And that was in 2014. And we found the technology really exciting because this was way before there were way before face reconstruction was a more mainstream thing.
2014 was really early on.
Yeah. Yes. Not even Face ID was not even a thing back then. So we just taking a video of your face, we worked on a technology that completely reconstructed your face in 3D. And, we were fascinated by the technology, and we were thinking, if we develop this very cool technology, everyone will just buy the use case is a secondary thing. And that turned out to be very wrong. So we built the technology, and it was really hard to find any way to monetize it. So after 2 years, we said, okay, this is probably not, the right way, and not the most important thing in the 3D industry in general to solve. And while we worked on this face reconstruction, we talked with bigger brands like L'Oreal and Ubisoft. And we realized there is a much bigger underlying issue, which is how to manage 3D data in general in the cloud, because mostly it's 3D productions are in silo, and a lot of things are offline, and sharing 3D files is a nightmare. So we try to solve that. or like we set out to solve that in 2016. Yeah, and that's our really introduction, how we all started with Colormass.
It's so interesting because I always when I have guests on and they tell me when they started with topics and they say 2014, 2016, you automatically go back in time and think, boy, what was I doing then? What topics was I thinking about? And
Absolutely, I remember.
Yeah, as you were really early on with the face scanning and technology behind there. And so when you basically got Colormass running and you found your monetization and your business use cases, tell me about that, when really the fabric scanner came on the topic, or when did that topic pop up? Like, how did you get the idea of actually building one yourself, which we're going to get into in a bit?
Yeah, originally we were actually, so in 2016 we just worked on the 3D CMS itself, and we didn't have plan of working on any kind of digitization technology. But as we worked together with clients, we very quickly got these requests from them that we want to scale 3D production, but and we have standard ways how to deal with 3D geometry and how to create 3D models and everything like on that side. But digitizing surfaces, that was really tough for many companies. And we looked around and we tried to find a scanner so that we can recommend something to these companies. But in the category of really true to life digitization, there was not really another scanner that was available, or maybe a small correction, the X-Rite Tech 7. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that, but that was available, but it was a really small size that you could scan with that. So it was not really practical for most of our customers. So then we just decided that we have to build a scanner. It cannot be that difficult. And then 9 years later, we are still building our next generation scanner. It's still an ongoing process.
And that's why I said it before in our pre-conversations, but that's why I'm so excited to talk to you about this, because that's something we both have in common. We both built our own scanners. There's scanners at the market, and we both, found our use cases for it. Probably also very different with the functionalities and what the purpose is. But it's so good to talk to somebody about the details now and to go into the technology. I've been waiting for one of these sessions for quite a while. So that's why it's so good to have you on today. And maybe before we go too deep into the scanner, and we have a little something we can share with our audience as well, a nice video clip so they can see what we're talking about. I would love to just get everyone grounded on what material scanning actually is. Because we have in the field, like we have also guests joining that maybe are not so deep into the technology and don't have the background in, or maybe want to learn something from this. So we're not talking about a flatbed scanner where you put a paper and you get it scanned. We're talking about actually scanning surfaces of materials. So if I have like a jacket and it's shiny, I can actually get the properties and all the details that you need to recreate a fabric or a garment like this in 3D. And there maybe some of you came across scanners where you can actually walk in as a human, you get your whole body scanned and you have a little figure of yourself. Some people maybe have an iPhone and they can scan their environment with a LiDAR technology, which is a technology that basically can grasp the depth of a room, and then it can like lay a picture on it that reflects like your surrounding. Those are all scanning technologies, but all totally different. And what we're talking about is taking a piece of fabric or material. It could be also a hard surface or a soft surface, so something textile or something like wood, and actually grasping that surface, not just the visual appearance, but also the depth and everything that goes into it. So just to ground everyone on that. Yeah. And if you talk about like fabric scanning, maybe we should switch right over to a video and to show our audience exactly how the scanner looks that you built, because I think it's very impressive. Super cool to bring.
Thank you very much.
Maybe you
Yeah,
could
and
speak
this is
a bit.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, so this is the scanner that we have built. So this is actually the fourth generation scanner, so the fourth version of our scanner, and we are in the process of building the fifth one. So it's not the final one. And as you can see on the table, there are these samples, and those are basically the surfaces that you would want to scan, and you place them on this table, and there's dashboard to select the areas that you want to scan. So you can select, let's say, 30 or 40 materials at the same time, start the scan, and then just leave everything to the scanner. But it's really important, as you mentioned, that this is about surface properties, so not the geometry or the shape of the products, but the surface that you put on top of the shapes. And it's a lot of lights and cameras, and the biggest part is the algorithm that we built that tries to uh, recreate the reflection properties, because those can be really complex, to be as accurate to life as possible, so that in the end, the person who is scanning, they don't have to manually go and adjust the surfaces, but just use them as is.
Yeah, and so the difference that I see from your scanner that I noticed right away from other scanners that the one I built are ones that I also worked with at brands. They come in different sizes, and so yours basically you can lay a lot of different fabrics on it instead of having to switch every time when you have a new one. You have this table that can also move, right? So you have the camera in the middle, with the different light settings that go on to get all the different pictures out of different angles, right?
Yes, exactly. Because from the beginning, we tried to uh, build a scanner for scale, so that if you have a lot of surfaces to scan, that you can do that. And in fact, like our clients scan multiple thousands of materials each year, and I think the scalability usually comes down to two important factors. One is the reflection quality. So once you capture something, how accurate it is to real life. Because if it's not, then if you scan 1,000 materials, maybe you have to modify 500. So that's one, and the other one are all these automations that make it really easy to scan 1,000 fabrics. And that's one part is the table, so that you can put all these fabrics on top of the table, like 40, let's say. Or it's not just I'm saying fabrics, but any kind of flat surface, and so that you can scan these at the same time. And the other ingredient is the post-process automation, so that we also build a tool set that you can use to post-process these scans to make them seamless, so that if you apply on something, that you don't really see the repeat in the end.
Yeah, so you have a software to go with it that takes care of it's called tiling. I think for everyone out there, maybe more depth on the topic. But I love how you said it, so you don't see the seams, because we have these squares, right, that get scanned. And if you have, let's say, not so good scanners and not so good software, you see the repeats, like you can see like a tiling. So that's really cool that you also makes total sense, right? That you don't only have the hardware, but also the software to go with it.
Yeah, because the industry standard is to edit these in Photoshop or Substance Designer, like Adobe Substance Designer, and that sometimes can take a half a day or a day, which is if you want to digitize a lot of materials, it's not really feasible. So that's why we said, okay, we have to include a lot more automation into this, and that's why we built it in the end.
Yeah, but I love that you're bringing up substance as well, because there's a lot of different ways that you can create surfaces, textures, materials. Scanning is they all have their pros and cons, and all their problems that they can solve. And I'd love to hear also a little bit about, like, what are the for anyone, any brand out there who wants to get their products created digitally and want to create the surfaces. Maybe you can share a little bit the challenges, the pros and cons, behind these different technologies, and to make sure that they, what they should be watching out for when they're getting started in the process.
Yeah. Actually, we did a test with one of our clients who was really interested in seeing how these different technologies compare, like scanning itself and everything sort of automated, or creating procedurally, so in Adobe Substance materials, and we did it for a relatively long time. And I think many people have a bit of a misconception about the procedural, that since it's created from as such a basic blocks as threads that you can modify, that this is somehow gives a much better result than if you would scan, which usually I would say is probably the opposite, because even if you create it from the threads, that thread is not the most basic building blocks. Like you would have to go down to the atoms to really simulate every complicated light reflections, and that makes things really, really complicated if you want to get out the feel of the fabric while you're doing it procedurally. So that was one learning, to make them feel realistic. That is a long time. Obviously, the added benefit comes that if you created a material, then you can easily change the color of the seam, or like you have a lot of control over it. But during this test, we have found that it's much easier, even if you have 10 different color variations, to just scan it, because it takes, you put it on the table, you scan it, and it's done. Even if you don't have, you have some controllability, so you can edit the material afterwards, but you don't have like the seam modification. And even with that, we found that it's a much better and scalable solution than the procedural one. That is, of course, only our experience. So that's still
absolutely. And it really comes down to the use case as well. Because I have a lot of use cases I've come across where it makes sense to actually work with Adobe Substance. If you, for example, have a jacket with embroidery over the back and it's very detailed, you could scan it as well. But if you have like, for example, maybe that's a case you could do both scanning and actually recreating that embroidery every 3D yarn wrap, let's say it like that. But for example, other fields coming from fashion is knit design is a big topic. You actually have the opportunity to scan different effect yarns. If you have things with naps, which have like different color effects, or something that has a certain texture or intertwined two color yarns, you can actually scan them and knit them in 3D. But it's very, very much work. So for anyone who's in a team, leading a team who maybe doesn't, this is a really important thing to understand, that at the end you have two surfaces: a knit constructed one where you really recreate every thread and every loop, or you have the scan. They may look very similar at the end, but it's a whole different workflow behind it. There's a lot more work that goes into the reconstructing of the 3D geometry of a knit versus scanning it. But of course, there's also limitations to scanning, right? I don't know if you can maybe share a few examples there that you've come across where, we just need to keep in mind if we're doing projects that there's certain limitations.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would definitely say that if you are designing something, so where there is a design element in the digitization process, that's definitely, I would say that it's good to think about which one, like what kind of controllability you would need. like, for example, if the embroidery, you would need to change the shape and things like that. And obviously with the scan, it's something where you capture the essence of the material, but then, changing the shape is definitely a lot more,
That's a good example.
a lot more difficult with the scanned material, because that's mostly just capturing things as they are, rather than designing with it.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I remember I had a project I did for a client where we had what's paljetten in English? Where you have these little pleats. You have dresses with little sequins. That's the word.
Right.
Like sequences on it. For example, as soon as you have like reflection or holographic stuff, I found it really difficult because it's really hard to scan that with the scanner that I built. So there's different cases that you're gonna come across that you need to think about, maybe also a combination of tools. I think it's more the exception, because the most of the fabrics you can scan it really easily and also modify them, and like you said, in color wise. Yeah, but they're definitely just really good to know for everyone. There's going to be some exceptions, and you need to be creative and understand which tools you need as a backup plan as well. Yeah, I think that's really important to understand.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's what I really love about our conversation today as well is that you have this background working for clients from the automotive industry as well, and the furniture industry. So in the beginning, I talked about the different surfaces that you can scan, which also leads to totally different workflows. You have the soft and the hard surfaces. And I would love to hear a little bit, like, as you're entering also the fashion, or you're have fashion clients as well, how do you like see the differences between the industries? Maybe on the scanning level, but also general approaches. Anything that you've noticed coming into the industry as well, you can compare them.
Many things. I'm not even sure if it's enough, the time that we have left to discuss. Also, maybe just highlighting the most important ones. I would say that in the automotive industry, or maybe before I go into that point, it's important to make this separation in scanning technologies, that there are two categories. So there is one that we call like a rule of thumb scanners or heuristic scanners that take a few photographs and then modify it in some way, and then output some material, but it's not necessarily a good material or a good representation of the material. And these are the majority of the scanners out on the market. And the second one is the true SVBRDF scanners that really capture the whole reflection properties at every single pixel on the surface. And that's really difficult. And at the moment, we only know so Colormass and the X-Rite Tech 7 that does this type of scanning. And in fact, in the automotive industry, usually us two are in consideration. So whenever we approach these companies, then in the end, it's either X-Rite or us. And I think that's like the automotive industry in terms of like quality and where they perfected the 3D is quite advanced. And then in the furniture and the fashion industry, because that was a big realization for us, because the furniture industry is something that we had a lot more experience with. We noticed that in the furniture industry, 3D is used for marketing a lot more. And in the fashion industry, it's used for design a lot more, but not for marketing. It took us some time to realize that people in general are not thinking about 3D as an engine for marketing, but as an engine for design. Which, in the furniture industry, I would say it's almost the opposite, that they use it much more for marketing rather than design. Obviously, there are like CAD programs and things like that. And that was a really big surprise for us when we first got into the fashion industry. And one of the biggest luxury brands that we worked together with, using our technology, it was the very first time that they rendered something on their e-commerce website. So prior to that, they haven't used 3D in the marketing sense at all, like in general. And that was for us a very big surprise.
I know, right? I mean, we're usually I'm very much in my tech bubble, so I'm in contact with brands and colleagues of mine and people in the space that are, it seems like so obvious, but the fashion industry is so traditional and handcraft focused and production focused. That's a very interesting point. I always had the impression that the fashion industry was like lagging behind on this development. But talking to you, actually, it was interesting because I got a new view on that. But yeah, it's very interesting. Like if you go into also more engineering industries, for example, tool design, I don't know, whatever. They've used this very early on, right? Also for developing and for engineering their products. And yeah, these parallels were very, very interesting at that side.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
but I wonder, because you mentioned that, and I love that you brought it up, about the point in time where you actually use, digital fabrics and 3D products. So we have this process from, first in fashion industries, for example, the concept phase where you think of a collection, a topic, and you go through the development, pattern making, first prototyping, over marketing up to the consumer and the last touch point. And there's all these different steps where you can plug it in with different needs. And of course, also, I know we had this conversation early on. It was interesting because of course, the quality needs are also different. If you have like a marketing campaign on Oxford Street, you want the fabric, the surfaces to look crisp and perfect.
Yes.
Versus if you're just designing, you're presenting to your colleague. Designers have the imagination. They know what, they have maybe the physical fabric there and they can imagine it. And maybe it's not needed to have that detailed look, right?
Yes, exactly. I think this is also the reason that in terms of scanning in the fashion industry, the SVB or DF scanning at the moment is not taking a big foothold yet, because mostly it's for design. If it doesn't look exactly right, it's still fine because it's just for internal purposes. But we feel like a change will probably come because as soon as companies realize that, these assets, like all these assets that we digitized over the years, we could now use them for marketing because, it's the same material, that they cannot use that for marketing, that there will be a shift in, thinking about how that whole process should be built up, and how exactly these little, like, separate assets should be digitized.
Yeah. And maybe for everyone out there, can you maybe explain exactly what the benefit is and why you can't use it why you can use it for marketing purposes?
So the SVBRDF scanning really captures all the reflection details. So once you put a material under the scanner, then what you generate...
You need to go with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Maps.
Yes. Exactly. So the quality of the maps and the amount of maps, like without going into too much technical details, is really important. Like how good the maps are and what type of maps there are. And you can generate something that is roughly like the material, but if you manage to capture everything so that when you generate something in 3D, that fabric looks exactly like in real life, also in 3D, then you can use this for different use cases. You can use it in the design process, and also in the marketing, since the quality is the highest that you could get. You don't need to then rescan for a different project just because it's now you need a better quality.
Yeah, and this is really good because I think this is a really good basic for anyone who's getting into 3D materials. So what you're seeing on the screen, these different colors are actually 3D maps. And 3D maps, you can imagine like layers that are laid on top of each other. The first layer is just like a picture of the surface. So if it's like this mesh, for example, you see like, the different holes, just a flat picture. And then you have maybe this white map you just saw is something... that gives all the other maps give all the details. Like we have reflections. One map gives information about translucency, opacity. You have different depth maps that give the surface structure. So displacement maps, they're called. Normal maps are the purple ones. They basically also give a little bit more this information of the fabric structure. So these things add on to each other, and there's so many different detail layers you can go into. And the more information you have, the more realistic it becomes, and the more the better the look is for your digital product models. And so for fabric, also the next layer is also physical properties, like how does it drape. I think that's also very different to the automotive industry. I mean, automotive also has textile actually inside, so
Yes.
maybe it's also a topic, but in fashion, it's always a big topic of how is the drape of the fabric. I don't know if I can, let me see if I can scan down. Just a second. Here I need to switch to my thing. So basically, if you have a fabric that's more sheer here, for example, has a very different fold as something that's maybe leather, that's a little bit more stiff in the texture. And that's basically, or here you can see how the sweater has a lot more stiffness in it, and maybe something that's a little bit like a nylon fabric is a lot more flexible. So the details behind it, there's so many information you can put in the physical properties, like warmth, stretch and stuff like that, that makes just this whole topic so complex. And I think that's also really important for people to understand when they're actually getting into the digital fabric and material topic. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see that the automotive industry is also bringing together actually also these both worlds, right? Just like furniture, you have soft goods, you have hard goods, and everything in between. Yeah, it's really fascinating topic.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, just because like different 3D solutions were introduced to these industries at separate time, like when we internally talk about, why these industries are so different, that usually comes up, like that for the fashion industry, the required tools to make any kind of clothes or something work is completely different than in the furniture industry. And for example, also what you mentioned, like what is the physical properties, so not the reflection, which is very, I think that's a very important distinction, that actually our scanner doesn't scan the physical properties. And because these things were like introduced in different times to the industries, we think that's like responsible in the end of these different shifts, like what is used in design. And it's funny because I don't think fashion industry is behind in anything. So even though like things are different, it's just a different construct. And for example, in the fashion industry, there is this fair about 3D technology that you're very familiar with, the PI apparel. In the furniture industry, there is nothing like that, which is very strange. But I think
Blows my mind.
Yes. So I think they are just just built like the industries are built different.
So different cultures also, right? The industries have different cultures.
Exactly.
I mean, fashion's very much like protective of ideas and working usually traditionally very in silo, versus the whole 3D space is, and that's why I love it so much, is people coming together at events like you mentioned, connecting, sharing with each other. Maybe that's why I ended up in that field. I don't know, but it's interesting because it's bringing a new culture shift into the industry as well, from what I've been experiencing. And I think that's a culture shift that's much needed, that maybe other industries like I don't know, furniture product design already have at that point.
Right.
It's really good to see. So I'd love to also touch point on AI because it's just so omnipresent. So I've been also playing around testing to generate like these maps we just saw, these different colored 3D maps that you can create for making fabrics,
Yeah.
digital fabrics. There's opportunities to create these with AI as well. Different tools, Substance has as well, that you can, sometimes you can upload a picture of something and it will give you some maps that you can create and play with. I think you had some experience on that touch point as well, right? Maybe you could
Yeah, we
share.
built. Yeah, absolutely. We built a technology that we called Material AI, so that you give it a regular photograph and then it turns it into PBR maps that you can then use in 3D. And we have a really big library of scans. So we trained this model, since it's an AI model. We trained it on around 10,000 scans. So these high quality scans that is focused on textile, woods and leather. So like very specific material categories, because we want this AI, it's very easy to create an AI model, but the quality in the end, I think that's really hard to reach something that even gives a comparable result to scanning. And
That's
I
my
think that,
experience as well.
yeah, exactly. So and we are still working on it, and we are trying to extend the training model so that it becomes or the training data, so that it becomes much more and more robust. But it's still definitely a process. So it still takes more time until the models could even reach something that is close to the scanning.
Yeah, but it's really exciting to hear your feedback on that, because I mean, the training data or images basically you need to train this model on image recognition, and so can actually create something comparable, is just so massive. And there's probably no models that exist out there. Sometimes you can download your AI models. Yeah, it's trained on something, on a topic. It's very niche, probably. I'm sure you had to jump into their a big part yourself. But that's good if you have a big library of images you scanned and fabrics you scanned. You have that database you can actually use to train it. So that totally makes sense on that point.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, go for it. All good.
Yeah, I think like our material AI is trained on the biggest scan library of SVBRDF scans, because we don't know another company that has a comparable data set. We have a lot more scanned than 10,000, but the 10,000 is, we
Still not
selected those. We selected those to train it on the materials that we think are the best ones, but we have a lot more materials. But yeah, I think even with this biggest data set, it's still a long way to go until they could be used as confidently as a scanner, like a material scanner. And when I say scanner, I mean the SVBRDF scanners. I think, if you talk about the rule of thumb scanners or the heuristic scanners, they get close already. But with the SVBRDF scanner, it's just not comparable.
Yeah, and it's like also other projects that you do with AI. If you have a product, a picture of your garment, and you upload it or generate an image of this product on a model. For example, they have those different platforms you can use to do that as well. It's still guessing the drape. It's guessing it's filling in a lot of information that it might not have. And even if the image looks very flawless and well executed, if you're just designing, creating ideas, or if you're just working on your own project and it doesn't really have to have this link to a physical product, these are really cool tools.
Yes.
And definitely have to explore it and find out where we go. But till now, my experience also was, and I'm sure you agree there, that if you have a product that has specific physical and visual appearances, it's really hard to generate something very specific in AI. It's really hard to get there and to have exactly those physical properties, for example, the drape and everything on spot. Yeah, I'm not saying that I could imagine we're gonna get there quite quick because things have been developing so fast lately. But till now, I haven't seen any tool out there that was good in generating those 3D maps and images. So if you guys have any other experiences, we'd love you to add in the comment because it's always good to learn from each other. Who knows? Maybe in a year from now, we'll be talking totally different. We have the examples. But yeah, I mean, it's an omnipresent topic, AI. It's having influence in all fields of digital fashion and beyond in industries. And it's really cool to see that you guys are tapping into that right away, that you're ahead of the game. Testing and trial and error is all part of the game. So it's really good to hear.
Yeah, and I completely agree on what you said, that as soon as there is a physical product involved that has to be represented the same way, then the generalization of the AI model really is not good for that use case. And I think that will be probably one of the last things that will be like it will take a long time until it gets there, so that you can use the AI to generate something very, very specific and controllable. Like obviously these two things are the really important parts, but we think it will take some time.
Yeah, I fully agree. Well, we'll see what the future brings there. Yeah. But it's really cool to see the tools that are popping up left and right and all the developments, how fast they're going. It's really sometimes hard to keep up, but yeah, these conversations are really great to talk to experts that are really deep into the field because you have the specific knowledge in fabric scanning. And thank you so much for sharing that. That was really good.
No problem. Yeah, no, thank you for
nice. So yeah. I don't know if anyone out there still has questions you'd like to add in the comments. This is your chance. Yeah, we're heading over to our last question in a bit. So you can, feel free to share anything that's on your mind there. Yeah, I'd love to also just wrap it up with a summary, maybe if you have. I mean, we talked about the things that clients should have in mind, or brands or creators if they want to start working with digital materials. I loved how you said that when it gets very specific, when there's a specific product in place, that's when it gets tricky. If you just use digital fabrics from online, of course you can buy them as well, or if you generate them with AI. But I think as soon as a physical product is involved, and that's where the journey started for me as well, I was like, okay, I need a scanner because I want this fabric and I want this drape and I want to make sure it really reflects this product. Maybe you can share any advice you have for creators coming in to the industry right now, how they anything they should keep in mind when they're starting out fresh in this field. Like, what's the first stepping stones that they can take?
I'm not sure if I can give a good advice. And am I giving this advice? Maybe that's a stupid question, but to 3D artists or just designers?
Anyone creating like a digital product, like a jacket or something in 3D, if they're working on it and they want to just get their feet into. So they've created models, they've done stuff and use existing fabrics and software, but now they want to go more in detail on fabric creation. Anything they could keep in mind when they're getting started?
Yeah, I think focusing on at least based on our experience, focusing on the realism part as much as possible, that usually pays off in the end, because those assets can be reused for many different use cases. And it's not like, for AR we create this use case, and then for a render for AR we create this 3D model and 3D assets, and for rendering we create this 3D asset, and for design we create this other asset. So there are like 10 different assets for all these use cases, which is a big waste of efforts. I think that's in our opinion, and that's why we started the whole infrastructure and the digitization, so that we can make this easier for people. But I think that's something where some companies are not focusing on creating a single central asset that can be then used as a reusable asset, no matter what kind of use case. I think that's really important to optimize that.
Really good topic. Build your digital libraries, guys. Or find somebody who can help you build it. Yeah, because we also, Balint and I, we had a conversation before what the topic will be. And the fabric scanning is one part of what they do. So they also help build digital libraries and the whole asset management systems. And you mentioned VR and, WebGL applications. So showing your product in 360 degrees. So I'd love to follow up on that. We try to always focus on one topic, but you have so much more to share. So I can't wait to have you back and to go more on another topic that you're focusing on as well.
Very great, yeah.
This has been a great conversation. I haven't seen any questions in the comments till now. So if you have any more, feel free to add them underneath the LinkedIn in the comments. We'll have a look and we'd be happy to get back to you if anything comes up. Other than that, I just want to really thank you, Balint, for this great conversation. Lovely speaking to you, and thanks for having us over in Berlin. It was really always great to meet people in person and to know that there's no AI engine behind it.
Right. Yes. Yes, no, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I really appreciate. I think it's the interviews you are doing are really great, and I think this is a really great platform also for us to talk about technologies, and there are not so many channels like this, so I appreciate you having us here.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. And maybe before we end, you could still share where it's best to reach you if anyone wants to get in contact.
So on the LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, you can always add me, or if you go on our Colormass website, you can also contact us through the contact form. So yeah, that's usually the way that people reach us.
Very good. Yeah, I also love LinkedIn. It's so easy to connect, especially on business topics and creators. Very cool. Thank you so much. This was so insightful. And like I said, I was so excited to jump into fabric scanning in detail because I love this topic. Very much. I hope everyone could, take some learnings away from this. And I hope you guys have a good week. And thank you so much for joining, Balint.
Thank you very much.